Big 12 institutions saying no thanks to private equity cash infusion. Does that mean the plan is a bust, or is there a bigger play in the works?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Now the number one sports podcast network in the world. With Aaron Dickens in for Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Aaron, great to be back with you, and wanted to check in on this episode on some recent conversation in the Big 12 Conference regarding private equity and money infusions, or at least the option for that. And something that so far has seemed like everyone's saying, no thanks, but possibly is also involving something maybe bigger picture in play, because we're talking about upcoming media rights opportunities and things along those lines in years to come. It seems like that cycle, of course, never ends. But if you have not been paying attention, Redbird Capital, the Big 12 Conference, they're partnered up, I believe, through 2031. But the thing that has seemingly gotten the majority of the attention has been Big 12 member institutions saying they would not be taking Brett Yormark up on his offer with a, I guess, de facto line of credit, if that's one way to describe it. And I'm kind of curious, Aaron, do you feel like this means this has been a bust for Brett Yormark, or is there a bigger picture at play?
Yeah, I think that the $30 million line of credit, however you want to kind of characterize it, I think that's capturing everyone's kind of attention and getting most of the headlines, just because that's fairly easy to understand and easy to put in a headline. Because, listen, all of us understand loans. We've all, or most of us, have probably taken some out in our lifetime, whether it's to buy a car or a house or go to school, whatever. But I think this is probably the least important aspect of what the Big 12 and Redbird are doing together, or hoping to do together. This isn't just about, hey, I'm going to loan you some money. This is about, let's make money together. I think that, the two real kind of methods of attack here are, one, sales. I think that the Big 12 and Redbird have teamed up, and the Big 12 has basically said, help us sell things. We're not good at this, or not as good at this as others. Help us get sponsorships. Help us open up new areas for sales revenue. And so I think, recently you've seen PayPal being a big deal signed with the Big 12. I think that's $100 million in revenue. That's real money going to the conference members. And so I think that's one big area where Redbird can help the Big 12. The other is a bit more nebulous, but I think potentially more exciting. And that is, you might have read that Redbird gave the Big 12 $12.5 million to invest in the Big 12. That's not just to like spruce up the office, right, and maybe upgrade the brand of coffee in the break room. That is to specifically create new businesses, right, that are based on the Big 12 and the Big 12's IP that can then generate further revenue. What does that mean? Give me an example. Well, think about the Yes Network, right? That is owned by the Yankees. At least they're the majority owner. Amazon has a share. I think Redbird still has a share. It is a money-making machine, and the Yankees benefit from that greatly, right? They're not on some fledgling, struggling RSN that's going to go under in 2 months. They own their own network. They make a bunch of money off of that. Think of On Location. You might not have heard of that. I certainly didn't until recently. That is a company that the NFL founded, and it became their official hospitality partner of the league. Hotels, experiences, all that stuff. Eventually, it was sold for several $1 billion. Again, real money. And so I think those are the two areas, more so than just, hey, I'm going to lend you some money, UCF or Houston or Texas Tech. Those are the two areas where Redbird can really help the Big 12 close that gap with the SEC and the Big 10.
Robert Klein, Redbird president, was asked and delivered comments in a recent CBS Sports article about essentially the deal being approved in the Big 12 Conference, but institutions not borrowing the money. He said, quote, I think many ADs are waiting to see what legislative and or regulatory changes might come before committing to take capital. And behind the scenes, we're working with many to evaluate the road ahead in multiple ways. I went on to say, are they taking the money? That's not the point. The point is we're engaged in an iterative set of discussions at an individual and university level to educate them on how to have a relationship with capital. First, today's episode brought to you by Rocket Money. Ever feel like your money can disappear each month? It can happen fast. A few subscriptions here, impulse buy there. Suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money will find subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and help you clean them all up quickly. And seeing all of your spending on one dashboard makes it easier to understand where your money is going. Plus, it's great how Rocket Money automatically builds budgets based on past spending and keeps you on track without overthinking it. And with the app, you're going to find good times to save each month and keep consistent with your financial goals. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. You get the idea, Aaron. I think you described.
You think ChatGPT wrote that?
I think it could possibly be a ChatGPT quote. I'm not exactly sure because it doesn't say a whole lot to me. But I do think that clearly the picture has been that there is a bigger play here than just whether or not you were going to be seeing these institutions take you up on that immediate cash. But I don't know. This is not surprising, right? There may be in some programs or universities, athletics departments here or there within the conference that you would have thought would have done this kind of thing. Utah, I think, just had a separate type of agreement not too long ago, which was sort of the first of its kind. I think there are some you feel like, no way, they're not going to be involved in this kind of thing. Maybe it's Texas Tech, maybe it's BYU. But I don't know, I'm not surprised by those, but maybe a little bit surprised by some others, because at the end of the day, we are talking about quite a significant gap. I think less than half of what you're talking about from an SEC or Big Ten perspective when it comes to revenue.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, obviously to you and me, and I'm guessing to everyone watching this on YouTube or listening it where you get your podcasts, $30 million is a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money, but I think to these programs, it's really not. I mean, what is $30 million? It's a fifth of a new building, maybe. It's one really good roster for one season. It's 10 JT Toppins? Like, in the grand scheme of things for these college programs, these universities, these departments, I don't think $30 million is some game-changing amount. And so probably better to just kind of let that lie and see, as our friend GPT said, see what happens down the road with legislation in the NCAA and all that stuff before, taking out a loan for, really not that much money.
Yeah, for $30 million. If $30 million was going to keep your boat floating,
sofa change,
you were already sinking. Yeah, you're losing that in the couch cushion. It makes me a little nervous, I got to be honest. And I think in general, probably a lot of fans are nervous, partly speaking personally, because of just confusion and misunderstanding as to actually what it could represent. But I think one thing we've always talked about with Brett Yormark in this new iteration of the Big 12 Conference is that you got to be an outside the box thinker. And so I think for the most part, fans have not minded some of these maybe atypical things. But there's also just in general, understanding what you're getting in bed with, which is probably a little bit frightening to some. But I don't know if Texas Tech will ever be in a position where they're having to go down this road necessarily. And from a league standpoint, personally, I don't know if there is enough out there. Like, you're teaching the Big 12 Conference to work with capital, and you're talking about new businesses and a PayPal agreement or whatever, and those things are great. But is all of that added up at the end of the day going to be enough to sustain the Big 12 into the far-off future? I'd be very skeptical of that.
I mean, we'll see, right? I don't know that, how many people thought before the Yes Network was founded that was going to be some kind of multi-billion-dollar, generating vehicle for the Yankees. Or I think maybe even the better example is, the the NFL on location deal. I mean, that seems so kind of benign and vanilla, and yet it made them a ton of money, and they sold it off. So if Redbird and the Big 12 can, like you said, kind of think outside the box here and come up with something that is, even half of what those endeavors were for the Yankees and for the NFL, then I mean, that's very, very real money that will close the gap. Of course, the follow up to that, though, is there's nothing stopping the Big Ten or the SEC from doing something similar. Like, oh, that's a good idea from the Big 12. Let's do that thing too. So it's an arms race. You're just trying to keep up.
Yes, sir, and very, very difficult to do so. All right, Aaron, and I just want to go ahead and remind everybody, cash infusions we're open to.
Absolutely. I'm very easily bought.
Yeah. All right, AD, appreciate
your company here. I mean, let's go even further.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time, my man. Stepping in for Chris. Enjoyed the conversation, and we got plenty more to go this week. So hope everybody out there will get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thank you to the Everydayers always riding along. Check out the newly launched Everydayer Club if that is you. $5 a month. Get your ad-free audio episodes, exclusive access to the Locked On Network Discord. It's linked in our show notes. Also a link there to a free 14-day trial to check out the Matador Mob, your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Aaron Dickens and for Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Thanks as always for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.